Hello, sir.
Hi, sir.
Sir, for today I will be sharing for about the spiritual self. So, for the first question, what thoughts or insights did you develop from going through class exercises, the dialogue, and your personal religious and spiritual experiences? So, first time ko lang actually na may based from the videos, part 1 and part 2. First time ko lang na-realize na different pala talaga yung spiritual and religiosity. Kasi yung sa spiritual, it talks about being like transcendent and belief na there is a higher existence as for the religiosity may system of belief na fino-follow for each. For example, the Catholics, they believe that they should do the rosary, or the Christians, they believe na dapat mag-baptize, born again, like swimming pool. Um, Insights from the video lecture. So, first kasi may notes ako dito. Na-note ko dito is yung spiritual identity. So, yung natutunan ko dito is may aspect na yung spirituality natin na nakaka-protect ng psychological health. So, for example, about let's just use this as an example, premarital sex. So, iba kasi ang view ng spirituality at sa religiosity. Religiosity kasi, they say na bawal talaga mag-premarital. But I'm not into premarital po. I'm just, giving an example. So, ayun po, sir. Going sa spirituality naman, siya mismo yung bahala sa decision niya. So, like, binibase niya from kung ano yung mararamdaman niya kay God. So, yun. Ah, Kayo guys, sure ba kayo? Sir, sorry, hindi po ako sa premarital sex. Masama po yun. Kaya, example lang po yun. Sir. Kayo guys, may...
Okay. I I agree kasi like before the lecture, before like the mga dialogue, and I always thought that yes it comes hand in hand, but I didn't know like there was an exact distinction to it. Like I learned that parang spiritual is more of an individual thing, and then like religious, you're like a group of people because it's all believing it, but it's both believing in something. That's why I didn't know na parang it could be differentiated pala, like two different definitions. Then ayun nga, I agree.
Ikaw, El.
Yeah, same din. Same din sa lahat ng sinabi ni Adi. Actually, exact same nga as in lahat talaga. So yeah, yun lang.
Okay. Alright, thank you, sir. For the second question. Would you consider yourself religious, spiritual, or spiritual? Is it important to be any of the two or both? Um, Sir, for me, uh, siguro I would be more on the spirituality side kasi uh, not to be biased or anything or to put any bad comments sa religiosity, pero parang masyadong hard po masyado yung religiosity. So, for example, like we have to do certain things na parang minsan napipilitan ka. As for spirituality, it doesn't matter. Basta as long as you do certain things na it would be pleasing to God. So, wait lang. May example ako dito sa notes. Sorry, sir. Wait lang. So, yun. So, ito na yun. It's a spirituality kasi, uh, it helps a person understand more kung ano yung meaning ng buhay nila, kung bakit sila nabubuhay. At saka, and it is healthy sa mental health, and also it practices a healthy lifestyle for the mind and body. So, is it important to be any of the two or both? Well, it will actually depend on the person. Hindi naman mapapersahan yung tao kung ano yung pipiliin niya, kung religiosity or spirituality. Pero for me kasi, I go on spirituality kasi mas ano po ako, mas more on relationship po kay God compared to the religion. So, ayun. At saka, ayun, yun lang, yun lang. Thank you. Hey guys.
I'm the same actually, kasi I consider myself more of spiritual than religious because ayun nga parang same as what Trevor said, like we I guess we were all raised in a Catholic school, so we were all like, let's say like in my school at least before, we had mass every week, sometimes two times a week, and then that's gonna be three times with like family mass, and then so it's like sometimes like because traditionally it comes natural, but being raised in a Catholic household can affect that sometimes, and that's just for me at least. And then I feel like it's not as important to be any of the two, like but if anything, it's more important to be spiritual than religious, because spirituality is like something within yourself. It's like depends on what you believe. It's something that you have to know and reflect about yourself, rather than like being religious, or like it's rather like it's like the umbrella of spirituality.
Yeah.
Like being spiritual, it's like it's up to you talaga, and it's more on like it's nothing like you have to do, but it's something that is gonna affect you big time if you do it.
Yeah. I agree on that.
Ako naman, personally, I'm a lot more spiritual than religious. Kasi, no offense Hi sir, no offense din. Pero I think, minsan yung mga religious communities, nagiging pilit, nagiging twisted din minsan yung mga ideas, masyado nagiging radical. Like, instead, di ba nga, example lang, Catholics, example, di ba yung main notion is love. God is a loving God, whatever. Pero nagkakaroon ng hate sa ibang tao. So yeah, I think mas important yung spirituality rather than religion in general. Yun lang.
Thank you for the insights, guys. I love you all. Okay, so moving on to the last question. How do you answer the big question of life? Example, where we come from, what is the purpose of life, what happens to people when they die? Are these questions important at all? So, di ba nagka-interreligious usap nung isang araw? So, actually, nagulat ako dun sa tatlo, lalo na dun sa agnostic na guy, kung paano siya nag-share. Kasi kahit papaano may in-explain pa rin niya na parang may faith pa rin siya kahit papaano. Yun yung narinig ko. Same rin with Catholic and yung sa Christian. Pero these questions such as what is the purpose of life? For me, uh, kasi as growing up in a Christian household, palagi sinasabi sa akin na may purpose yung buhay mo, which is to disciple others and yun, know, spread the word of God. Yun. And pero may iba ring purpose rin yung buhay. Like, for example, you can be a future politician, president, or whatever. Um, Yun naman, what happens to people when they die? Siguro, marami rin tao na kina-question yan kung saan ba tayo mapupunta? Hell, heaven, or purgatory? Or is there even hell or heaven, di ba? So, ang masasabi ko lang doon, kung ano yung whatever you believe in, you just stick with it. So, kung pinaniniwalaan mo na may heaven or hell, tapos kung pupunta ka talaga sa langit o sa baba, depending on what you're doing right now, edi you have to live with it, diba? So are these questions important at all? Some may be irrelevant, but yung purpose of life and what happens to people when they die, I think those two questions are important kasi it will help you be more realistic and open sa buhay. Lalo na ngayon may uncertainty na may pandemic. So what if yung mga ibang tao na namatay, hindi pa nila nakikilala si Jesus, di ba? So, parang malay nila, kine-question nila yung sarili nila habang nasa loob ng quarantine room. What will happen if I die? Tapos ano talaga yung purpose ko? Bakit ako nagkaganito? So, yun lang. Thank you.
I have the same naman, because like To answer the big questions in life, you have to be you have to have a sense of spirituality and religion at the same time. But it doesn't have to be both. Because in spirituality, it's what you believe in. So to answer the big questions in life, being a Christian raised in a very Catholic school, to answer it, it's like you mostly base it on I mostly base it at least of like worship and all that rather than like yung mga stuff I learned from the Catholic house from like a Catholic school, because even though like they're very similar, it's surprising how different they can be sometimes, because and it's not like that obviously differentiated as well. So I answer it based on what I believe and what I know based on like what I've experienced. Yung mga like let's say where do we or the self come from, that all of that comes from like yung nga, the same thing. And then to know the purpose in life, I feel like rather than it being spiritual or to ano or then or religious, I just feel like for me at least I don't have it in like any religion or whatever. I just what's it called, like I just believe na parang the purpose depends on what you want to do in life, like as long as you're happy yun na yung purpose mo, there's no exact purpose like let's say to follow ganon ganon, there's no lang ganun for me. And then what happens when we die, it's more of like depends on what you believe mismo. If you believe there's heaven and hell, same with Trevor, then yeah, then that's gonna happen to you. But if you don't, also it's like it's still questionable. But again, yeah, it just depends on what you believe in general. And they are not that like for me, like they're not that important because like they are in a sense, but not to an extent, because like it's these things are all opinionated, so it really depends on your sense of reflection and your sense of like opinions. Well,
I agree din actually sa lahat, na lahat nga ng big questions na to is it stemmed from our beliefs. Pero for me, I think na yung answer natin dun should not be enclosed lang sa religion or spirituality natin. Kasi dapat maging open din tayo to accept other how can I say, perspectives, ganun. And yung importance, oo, kasi I think sobrang ano niya sa self-discovery. Mas, like, yung answers mo doon reflect talaga yung values and yung mga ideals mo and kung ano yung pinapaniwalaan. So, yeah, yun lang.
Thank you, sir, for this wonderful journey. Thank
thank
you,
you,
sir.
sir.
Thank you, sir.